Hi friends, welcome to EduTap. So welcome to the Target NABARD Grade A and B 2019 5 MCQs a day series. Now this is a regular series wherein each day we come up with a discussion of 5 MCQs. We explain the concepts behind those MCQs, plus we also tell you the relevance of those questions. So this is lecture number 18. So we know that the NABARD Grade A and B 2019 notification is out. The NABARD Grade A exam will be held on 15th and 16th of June 2019. NABARD Grade B on 16th of June 2019. The online registrations have begun, so please fill the form ASAP. 5 more days to go. So the last date is 26th of May 2019. So there are 8 vacancies released for Grade B and 79 vacancies for Grade A. We have had some excellent results previously and EduTap has performed well. NABARD Grade A 11 selections in 2017 and 26 selections in the year 2018. We offer the courses for NABARD 2019, so you can have a look at the courses that are there. So there are courses separately only for NABARD Grade A as well. And if in case you have already taken our RBI course, then you can offer ARD course separately, Agriculture and Rural Development. And in case you want to prepare for both Grade A and Grade B, you can go for NABARD Grade B plus Grade A course, wherein you will get phase 1 mock test plus phase 2 full video course. And in case you have already taken NABARD Grade A and you have to prepare or you want to prepare for Grade B, then you can take the last course wherein we'll give you only the paper 3, right? So if you want to avail the discount that we are offering, that is 20%, you can use the code NABARD20. Now these are the combo courses that we offer, and to avail the discount of 30%, you can use the coupon code COMBO30 to avail the same. So friends, we also offer individual courses, which is RBI Grade B, SEBI Grade A, RBI Assistant, IBPS AF4, and we also offer a QRE course, Quant Reasoning and English course for all banking exams. Okay friends, so what we shall be doing is, today we shall be taking a particular topic, and the topic of discussion today is plant geometry. It forms an important topic under the agronomy topic, and it is related kind of way to the cropping patterns and systems. Right? So what we are going to do is we are going to select 5 questions which are based on this particular topic. So first we shall study about this particular topic in detail. We shall see the types of it, right? And based upon that, we shall see 5 simple questions. In this particular video, I'm not going to give explanations for those 5 questions because those questions are very simple and taken directly from the explanation that we are going to see today. Okay? So first of all, what do we mean by plant geometry? Right? So it is nothing but the arrangement of the plants in different rows and columns in an area. And why do we need to have a proper arrangement between different rows and columns? It is to effectively utilize the natural resources. Okay, so you need to understand that to utilize the resources like light, water, nutrient and space, we need to effectively space the plants into various rows and columns. Okay, now I'll just give you a schematic representation as to how it is spaced. So let us take this. This is going to be the row. Okay, and this is going to be the column. So for instance, we have plants here. Now you need to understand that when I talk about row to row spacing, I'm talking about the distance here from this plant to this plant. This is a very simple concept provided you just concentrate a bit. Okay, so when I say the row to row spacing, that is R to R, I'm referring to the spacing between this plant and this plant. You can see it on your screens. And when I talk about plant to plant spacing, I'm talking about the vertical distance, that is from this plant to this plant, right? So if you're thorough with this, what I'm talking about, then you will not get confused in the further lecture, right? So you just understand row to row, horizontal distance, plant to plant, vertical distance. Okay. Now, what are the different types of crop geometry? So first let us have a look at the names, then we shall go deep into it. Okay. The first thing is random plant geometry. Then comes our square plant geometry, rectangular, triangular and a diamond pattern, that is quincunx pattern. Now what we shall be doing is we shall see an overview. So after having this lecture, you will get a very good idea as to what is plant geometry, what are the types, and when you get a question based on it, you will be able to immediately identify the options. Okay. So when we talk about random plant geometry, you can see from the name itself that there is no particular arrangement that is followed, no spacing or no fixed distance that is maintained between row to row and plant to plant. Okay, it is very random. So how can we actually achieve this kind of geometry? When we use broadcasting method of sowing. So friends, you need to understand and relate one concept here. When we talk about sowing, only when we follow certain particular methods of sowing, that would result in the final geometry that we achieve. So in one of our previous lecture, we had discussed the various sowing methods, and one of those methods was broadcasting method. So in this particular method, we had discussed that the seeds are dispersed very randomly. Okay, so when you disperse the seed randomly, obviously you would get the crops planted randomly, right? Here you cannot get a proper distance like you say 16 centimeter or 15 centimeter because you're randomly sowing it. Okay, this is as simple as the name. Now, when you follow this kind of plant geometry, what happens? Either you are over exploiting the resources or you're underutilizing the resources. Here you are seeing there is no proper planning, right? So when there is no planning, it can go either way. Either you tend to utilize the resources more or you tend to underutilize the resources. Okay. Then we come to the next type, that is a square plant geometry. Now again friends, just gauge it from the name. We know that in square we have equal sides, right? So in the case of square plant geometry, the row to row distance and the plant to plant distance is the same. You can see here a picture which is given on your screens, right? You can see here that here when you see this is row to row distance, this is 1.8 meter, plant to plant distance 1.8 meter. Okay, so this kind of geometry that we are talking about is mostly used in perennial crops. Okay, and what do we mean by perennial crops? Their life cycle is actually more number of years. Okay, now what are the advantages? Light is uniformly available. Why is it so? It is evenly spaced, right? So each plant actually gets enough room for every damn thing. Every resources is properly utilized with by each and every plant that is planted. Okay, the next thing, movement of wind is not blocked. Again, why is this so? Why is it not blocked? Because you can see the equal spacing is given. Next, mechanization is possible. That means if you want to plow the soil that is here, suppose if there is a formation of weed that is there, it is easier for us to use implements and plow this field because there is equal distance which is maintained. So because of all these advantages, this kind of square plant geometry is highly used. Now we come to the rectangular method of sowing. Okay, again, gauge from the name, what do we mean by rectangular method? So obviously there are rows and columns, we know that. Now the row spacing is wider than the spacing between plants. So let us just take an example here. So here's a plant. Okay, so this is row to row spacing, R to R. Okay, and this is our plant to plant spacing. Okay, so here in the case of rectangular method of sowing, you would see that this R to R spacing, this distance is going to be more than this distance. That is what is mentioned in the first line. Okay, and you need to understand that this particular method of sowing would actually help us in intercultivation. Now, let us understand what is intercultivation. So we had actually discussed the various tillage process and what are the types of tillage, right? We had seen that there is before cultivation and after cultivation tillage. What do we mean by after cultivation? After the plant has been, seeds have been sowed, if we manipulate the soil, that is called after cultivation tillage. Okay, so the cultivation practices that are taken up after the sowing of crop is called intercultivation. It is otherwise called as after operation. So you need to actually stop here, pause the video and have a quick revision of the tillage systems, right, that we had discussed very elaborately in one of our videos. Okay, now this particular rectangular planting that we are talking about, it mainly suits the annual crops. Okay, annual crops are those crops that have their life cycle less than a year. What does mean by less than a year? That means, what do we mean by life cycle? Life cycle means the duration from germination of a particular crop to harvesting. Okay, so when this duration is less than a year, that particular crop is known as an annual crop. Okay, and previously we had seen perennial. So in case of perennial, they take more than 2 years. Okay, or in fact many years. Now, what are the different methods of rectangular sowing? Solid row and skip row. We shall see what do they mean. So let us start with a solid row. Okay, in solid row what happens is there is no proper spacing between the plants. Now you need to understand what is meant by this particular statement. So what would happen is you would have a very definite measurement of row to row arrangement, but the plant to plant, that is the vertical distance, will not have any definite pattern. So in this case we call it as solid row. You can gauge from the name itself that only the row to row parameter is decided. So we would have equal spacing between the rows, but the plants would not follow any equal spacing. Okay. Now example is wheat. Now for such plants, if you see, the distance would be written as R to R. Whenever you see this kind of abbreviation anywhere, you should automatically understand that we are talking about the distance between one row to the other, right? Now comes skip row. Again, understand what the name says, skipping a particular row, right? So a row of planting is skipped and hence there is reduction in population. Now, what do they do if they skip a row? Suppose, for example, let us take, okay, this is row 1, this is row 2, row 3 and row 4. Okay, and all the 4 rows we are sowing a particular crop. So what happened is we are removing this particular row, we are skipping a row of that particular plant that we have sown, and instead of that we are cropping here another plant species or crop species. Maybe if this is crop A, here it would be B. Okay, that is an intercrop here. Okay, now we come to a kind of a different arrangement that is called paired row arrangement. Let us understand what is this. First, you need to know that this kind of row arrangement that we are talking about can be seen in both square as well as rectangular geometry type. In certain cases, we also observe this in triangular method, but we shall restrict ourselves to square and rectangle. Okay, so first have a look here at the picture which is given below. Okay, this is a case of paired row arrangement in the case of square, and this one in the case of rectangular type of sowing. Pause the video here, have a look at this picture first, and then we shall move on to the explanation. So here, if you can see, let us go line by line because this is kind of a tricky one. Okay, so first in paired row arrangement with square geometry, kindly see the first picture that I'm referring to. Okay, the plant to plant spacing, that is this one, okay, is same as that of row to row spacing, this one. Okay, so here we are talking about Z, and this is Z in our case, and X. This is X in our case. Okay, so the distance between these two plants and these two plants are going to be same. Okay, but in paired row plantation, which is done with rectangular geometry, the plant to plant spacing, that is Z here, is more than the row to row spacing, that is here X. Okay, please see the picture, pause the video and match this definition with what is given in the picture. This is very important. In both these geometries, one lateral is provided in the middle of the two crops such that the two rows are equally spaced from the lateral. Now you need to understand that this is a lateral which we are talking about. Okay, and here this distance is going to be equal. Okay, from this lateral, this plant is planted at an equal distance to this plant. Okay, dimension y is the distance between two paired rows. This is very clear from the picture that here we have a pairing and here we have a pairing. Okay, and the distance between these two pairings is counted from the middle line, that is a vertical, that is y. Okay, so pause the video, understand there are three things here. One is row to row spacing, plant to plant spacing, and one is between the paired row to paired row spacing. Okay, that means here the distance y. Now, what are the features of this paired row arrangement? The number of rows per hectare remains the same. So here what we need to understand that the number of rows are not going to change. Okay, number of rows are going to be the same, but only the way they are arranged is different. Okay, the advantages are that wide spacing is available between any two sets of paired rows, which can be utilized for growing profitable intercrops. So as I told you, there's not going to be much of a difference, but what is the difference? The spacing method. So we just now saw in the previous example, the diagram was like this. Just imagine this to be the diagram that we had referred before. So here we saw that there was a space, right? And this was a space between these two paired rows. So this space that we are talking about can be effectively utilized to grow any other intercrop. Okay, so there is effective utilization of space, and each of the plant is also spaced in a definite arrangement. Now we have this triangular method of planting, right? This kind of method is usually seen for wide spaced crops like coconut, mango, etc. Okay, you can even Google and find out more examples of such kind of triangular method of planting. Now here the number of plants per unit area is more. Okay, so just understand this point. So as a whole, if you divide this and see a unit area, you would see that because it is triangular in shape, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, you can see there are 4 plants actually falling into one unit area. So you can see that the number of plants per unit area is more in this kind of planting. Now the last one that we're going to see is diamond pattern. It's King Kong's method. Pardon me if I'm not able to pronounce it properly. So this particular pattern of arranging row planted crop is a modified form of the square pattern, right? We had seen the square pattern, and square pattern row to row spacing and plant to plant spacing is the same. Okay, so in this case what we are doing is we are having a plant sown at the middle. Okay, so when you join all these things, it gives you kind of a diamond like shape. Okay, so these 4 crops that we are talking about, that the corners, they are the main crops. Okay, and the one at the middle is the filler crop. Now here you can see pictorial representation of 3 types, right? Square spacing, rectangular spacing, and triangular spacing. Pause the video here, have a look at the diagram patiently, and then recollect what we have studied so far. So when you have those information in mind, and when you see this particular picture, you will be able to relate it very beautifully. Now, this is a very, very important table. Here we have taken a screenshot from a book, and it is related to the spacing measurements of the various crops. Okay, so what you need to do is just have concentrate on this particular column that we have highlighted. So for each one, the spacing centimeter is given. You don't need to mug it up within a day. Maybe you can split this up. Okay, so every day take 5 minutes out of your time and just make sure that you memorize at least 2 or 3 crops, right? You can also Google out and see other important crops that you feel can come in the examination. So these are some of the things that you actually need to work a bit on these things, right? So kindly make sure that you memorize this. There can be a question in the examination. Now here if you see in the case of wheat, as I told you that we were discussing solid row arrangement, right? So here R to R is only given. That is only row to row spacing. So don't get confused with this. So with this, we have completed the discussion. Now we shall just quickly have a look at the 5 questions. I'm not going to give you explanation because we have already dealt in detail about various types of plant geometry, right? So here the first question that we're talking about is, which of the following plant spacing methods involve sowing plants at equal distance, row to row, plant to plant? So we have had enough of explanation. So the answer is square geometry. Okay. R to R and plant to plant distance being equal, x and x. Okay, this particular question can be linked to the ARD section, obviously, under definitions and types of cropping system under plant geometry. Next one, question number 2. Which of the following plant spacing methods involves definite row arrangement but no column arrangement? So we have just now seen it is represented by R into R spacing, and that is solid row. Next, the third one. Which of the following plant spacing methods involves placing crops at 4 corners and 1 at the center? And the answer to this question is diamond pattern of sowing, that is C. Then comes question number 4. It says, which of the following plant spacing methods results from broadcasting method of sowing? So this was the first method that we had discussed. Here we are referring to random geometry. And what is broadcasting method of sowing? We are randomly sowing the seeds. Now we have come to the 5th question. It says, in which of the following crops solid row plant spacing method is practiced? So basically they're asking an example. It is wheat. Now kindly Google out, try and find out other examples as well. Okay. Now in this particular slide, we have given you the answers. Kindly have a look at these again. So friends, if you have any queries, you can drop us a mail at hello@edutab.co.in. You can give us a call on 8146207241. You can go to our website if you want to have a look at the course features, www.edutab.co.in. So till then friends, thank you so much for watching, and as usual, happy learning.